Um, this is a follow-up to my last video where I introduced structures. I just want to give you another example, and then we're going to go into some other topics. So here I've got a little structure, a date structure that's made up of a month and a day and a year. We call these the member of that structure, and this is creating a new data type that you can use that's a combination of primitive data types that are integers, and we can now in our program create a variable that's not a simple int, but it's a structure date, and we'll call that variable today. And then to assign values to that variable today, we'll use the dot operator, and then we'll pick the member that we want to assign to. So here we've got our month, day, and year, and then we can print those values out in the same way with that dot operator. And then I also added a line of code to show the size of this object. So it's one variable today, and if I look at the size of that, well, in bytes, that's going to end up being 12 bytes. And that's because every integer on this system is 4 bytes, and we've got 3 of them, so 12 bytes total. We might look at this, and a lot of people that use structures find it quite clunky to have to use struct date. They're used to doing int x or c and char, or a single word for the data type and then your variable name, and it seems programmers don't like to type a lot, so struct date, they're not in favor of doing that much typing. So here's what they do instead. They create an alias, another way of saying struct date, and they give it a shorter one-word name. So for example, if I want to create a typedef, which is how you create the alias, and I want to alias struct date and say another way to say that is to just plain use the word date. Then from any point in my program that I normally would have done struct date, then I can just say date, and that's it. And I can run it, and I'll just verify that it gives me the same answer. And then you can shorten that even more. Instead of having this as a separate line, we can combine this alias, this typedef line, along with our definition of what is a structure date anyway. So we could say, I want to type def, I want to create the alias, and here's what it is I want an alias for, and here's my shortcut name for it, date. And now I've done this already at the same time as defining what a date is, and we can run that. And I think this looks a lot cleaner, and a lot of times you're going to see a naming convention where these user-defined data types will look different in some way than just a primitive data type like int or char or float. So I use the convention here of an uppercase letter, and I've seen that in a lot of textbooks, but not everyone, and that's not a requirement. So you could use lowercase date if you wanted to, but I want this to really stand out as there's something different about this variable.